I have been holding off on publishing this video because I really wanted to wait for more details to release on the Life by You human creator from the Paradox Life by You team. You see, the Life by You humans are the stars of the show, and at this point in time, I feel like there's enough information for me to analyze what playing with them will be like, including analyzing the creator itself, as well as the traits and skill editors that they released recently. So with all that said, let's just dive in. Hello everyone, and before we get into this video, this is editor Michael coming in to add in an addendum to what you are about to watch. At the time that I wrote and recorded this video, the Life by You release date had not been updated to the March 2024 date that we know now. Instead of cutting out the audio completely, leaving awkward gaps of silence, I decided that it would be best if I just added in some text to correct myself whenever I mentioned the previous September release date. With that said, I'm not perfect, and I may have accidentally missed some corrections throughout this video. So with that said, I do apologize for any of the miscorrections I may have missed, and I just want to thank you again for watching. Now let's get back to the video. Before I break down and analyze the edit traits and skills video, I just wanted to briefly summarize my thoughts and analyses on the actual Life by You human creator tools. Okay, so basically this whole time I have genuinely liked what I have seen when it comes to the Life by You human creation tools. Honestly, this whole time I really feel like I haven't been able to add much more thought and analysis really to apply more to it, since I think that the Life by You human creator is perfectly fine as it is. I don't mean to downplay the obvious hard work that has been put into the Life by You character creator, but I'm just not seeing anything that is pushing boundaries or inspiring me to really create a video on it, so to speak, since I just genuinely like what they're doing. Since The Sims, there are plenty of video games out there from all kinds of genres that allow you to create characters. And that aspect of gameplay has evolved across multiple genres into something that I think is a little more standardized across all genres now. For example, nearly every game that has character creation aspects to it uses a slider on various parts of a character for players to adjust and customize. If anything, I think that credit is definitely due when it comes to offering height sliders in Life by You, since that would tremendously complicate animations going forward, since you would likely need to have a dependent equation piece of code of some kind working on in the background. Now, I don't know too much about coding in the background for this kind of a thing here, so if you are watching that do have professional experience working with that kind of a thing, let me know how the process actually is in a comment below. Anyways, I also think that adjusting the arm and thigh length is also another element of the Life by You character creator that deserves more credit than it is getting, since those kind of sliders aren't popular in video games across multiple genres. Overall, with what I have seen from the character creator and the clothing options, I'm impressed, and I feel that the early access version of it represents the next logical step in delivering what the next iteration of life simulation games will have to offer in this part of gameplay. And I have a feeling that the Life by You character creator is just going to continue to evolve and update as the Life by You franchise matures. If anything, I would like the option to adjust sliders by numbers, since I have a feeling that there will likely be a mathematical algorithm assigned to the player's input for each of the slider. But that's really all that I had to add on this topic. You see, I couldn't make a full video out of sharing these opinions without making it feel stretched out, which is why I just wanted to add this part of my opinion on the Life by You human character creator to another video where it makes sense. And here I feel it makes sense since I'm about to dive into the traits and skills. So with that said, let's just jump into the traits and skills video and analyze it and break it down.
Hello everyone, it's Rocio, Community Manager with Life by You, and this week we want to walk you through some editors. We have a lot of tools and it's time to get started looking through some of them. So let's go ahead and click Create. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the loading screen in. We're going to sit through this because I think Rod had a really good idea to show you how long these loading screens actually are. So this is unlike the game itself in that you're not loading into a whole open world. Here you're just loading into the tools and the mods that you've created. I know some of you all timed the loading screen last time, so you'll be happy to know this one was around 23 seconds. So here you can see there are already a lot of available creations. This includes a lot I made a while back, as well as all of the built-in stuff to Life by You. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and make a new mod here because I don't want to ruin what's already in the game. In order to create a new mod, you just click the green plus at the top, and there it populates a new mod, which you can rename. So I'm going to go ahead and name this For Our Community. So now that I have this mod project, I can go ahead and add something to it. I can go here, and as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff that I can change. I'm just going to go ahead and give you a second to take a look at this screen. I know there's a lot to take in, but I think today I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do skills and traits.
I know that you have probably paused the video here before when you first watched it, but it is a very important screen to pause on, and I'm going to explain why. Obviously, this is the screen where we are shown what kind of creators and editors are in the early access game. Sure, we got the text rundown of each of the creators in the announcement trailer, but there seems to be some new creators that we can mod and use. Now, I'm not going to go over them all, but I do want to touch upon one that has got me the most excited for, and that is the Regions tab. Now, whether this is a region creator tool of some sort or not remains to be seen, but when I do get to play the Life by You Early Access come this September, one of the very first things that I will be doing is seeing how I can change the world or the town that I am playing in. I've mentioned it in previous videos, but I was a huge fan of the Sims 3 Create a World tool back then. I learned how to create maps on my own for the Battle for Middle-earth game way back when, and I've also created maps for several of the Civilization games. So yes, map making and world building is certainly my cup of tea, and it almost seems possible here. Prior to this video, I have also released a video on the features that I would need a regional or town editor tool to allow me to do in order to create my own world, so you can check that out if you'd like. But with this screen, I kind of feel like there might be some hope that I might be able to create my own Life by You world, complete with adjusting the topography and stuff like that. This is all something that honestly would go above and beyond for what I would expect an early access version to deliver from any game. Other tools that I think are super intriguing from this screen include the color presets, DNA ranges, job ladders, markets, soundscapes, troves, and the Uber editor, whatever that means. Sure, maybe some of these tools are just placeholders for the developers to use in the game that will get changed later on, but at this time they are showing it to us, and I just wanted to note that I am interested in learning about all of the other creation tools as well, since I think it will help to set Life by You apart from other life simulation games, with all of this customization at our fingertips. But let's continue watching.
Before we start off with some examples, let me just remind you all the usual community manager disclaimer. A lot of this is in progress. We're still modifying and fine-tuning, so things are subject to change. Going into skills, you can see all of the skills that are already built into the game. And of course, you can add your own skills, and that's why we have these filters. You can filter between all mods, the current mod, and you can search for whichever skill you're looking for in the event that you have a bunch modded in. Now for the basics of a skill. So here you have the display name. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It's what you see in game. You have a description where you can describe what the skill actually will do in game. And then from there, you can exclude it from randomization. So for example, you don't want your randomly generated people to have knitting. You can make sure that it's not included. And of course, you can add a level up message. So basically, whatever pops up when you level up in that skill. You can also add scripts to your level up. So basically, if you want something to trigger once somebody levels up in that skill. I'll make a random skill at the end of this video, but let's go ahead and move on to traits because there's a lot more there and I want to get started. Another quick community manager disclaimer, we will be walking you through all of these traits in videos, like through actual gameplay, but for this video, we're just going to show you what it looks like when you're actually...
I just wanted to briefly pause here to mention that when Rocio clicked into traits, there was 237 traits. That's a lot of ground to cover. If the Paradox Life by You team plans to showcase each of them, I bet you they were really only referring to personality traits, because I kind of feel like traits includes a lot more than just that, and I will go on to explain that later on this video. Anyways, even if they did like 10 traits, it's still a lot if it's taken from that 237 number. And that number might not even be right at the end of the day. But let's continue watching.
It's like when you're actually in the editor. As you might be able to tell from the naming convention here, there are tons of different types of traits. That includes personality traits, conditions, emotions, needs, relationships, and object states. So we're not going through all of them right now. We'll cover them in future videos, but I did want to let you know because all of them kind of serve different functions in game. Before we get too far here, you can see that I can't edit these because they are built in. We're in the built-in section, and that's basically so that if you add mods and you make all these edits, you still have the base game to go back to, just in case. So let's go back to our community mod project, and from there I'm going to go to traits. Now that we're here, I'm going to go ahead and click that green plus, and you can see that I have added a new trait. I'll admit I probably should have asked you all what you wanted to see for this video, but we're going to go ahead and just make a random trait. Let's name this trait Cozy. I'm going to go for that like comfortable and cozy feeling. Let me go ahead and write a description for this cozy feeling. I'm thinking very like with a cup of tea and a book next to a fireplace, trying to evoke that feeling. Like near a fireplace, wearing comfy socks, or post-bath, like that kind of like warmth inside. So like I talked about earlier, traits can be a number of things. They can be temporary states. So I'm kind of thinking that cozy is a temporary state similar to having a nightmare or, one of the needs being met.
I think that there is a bit of confusion here when it comes to what traits actually refers to. In this case, it almost sounds like Rocio's describing what Simmers would be familiar with as a moodlet or an emotion when she's referring to a temporary state. Unfortunately, this video doesn't actually show us the trait in action, which is something that I think we needed to see since it would show us the back-end setup from this video and how it performs in a live saved game. For example, would we see that a Life by You human feels cozy after chilling by a fireplace? I mean, that's how I understand it at least. I think that we are getting confused, or perhaps it's just me, in that Simmers are used to referring to personality qualities as traits or personality traits assigned to their simulated character. And so I think that in the future, we should be reminded what traits actually means in this game, since Life by You is indeed a different game from The Sims.
So that's the description for the trait of cozy. Now for the effect, I think it's going to make my person just feel really good. I'll figure out how to make that happen, but I think, basically after they take steps towards making it a nice environment and treating themselves, I think that's when this effect will take place. Traits can also affect conversation. So if I want somebody who's cozy to, have a different disposition or change the way that they have conversations, I can go ahead and click this and it can let you know when someone's cozy. And these two toggles are basically to let you know in your timeline when this condition is added or removed. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle those on. So that was all under the display of the trait. Now let's go ahead and move on to the function. So this is kind of where you can be a little bit more fun. At the top, you can add scripts for what you would like to happen when the condition is added, removed, or renewed. And then you can add an emotion to the trait. Under emotion, you can add an icon, adjust the emoji that corresponds to it, change its color, and adjust its priority. For cozy, I'm not going to be adding any emotion, but I will be timing this because I don't think you stay cozy forever. I'm going to go ahead and add a duration here. And I don't plan on making this non-renewable or giving it random extensions. I also won't be adding any scripts for this video. But like I mentioned, these scripts can basically adjust someone's behavior when you add the trait, on renewing the trait, or when you remove the trait. I'll try to show you an example of this before the end of the video from one of our actual designers. We'll also have that designer, shout out Lauren, write a blog post on this so that she can go into interaction, script wrappers, and more of this in depth. Here at the bottom, you can see appealing object tags and unappealing object tags. So basically any item that has those tags will either be appealing or unappealing depending on where you put it. You can see the tags are pretty varied, and you can add your own tags, which may change depending on which objects you add to the game yourself. For the sake of cozy, I know cozy can mean different things to different people, but let's go ahead and start with the appealing object tags, and I think plants are definitely something that I find cozy. Some art can be really cozy, like good for the soul. I also am personally a big fan of warm, clean laundry. That feels very cozy to me. And I can't forget bathtub. Let's add one more. I think... Oh, yoga. Yoga's a good one. I think you can relax with that. There it is. Now we should move on to the unappealing object tags. I think we should do the opposite of clean laundry, so dirty laundry. And I don't know. Let's just add one more. I think metal is pretty uncozy. Should I add more? I think that's fine. Let's move on.
Immediately, I know that I would like a search bar function added into the base game as an update. Having to scroll through all of the tags feels a little tedious for me, so if I happen to get invited into the early access Discord, that will likely be one of my first suggestions I'll make, unless it's added in by the time early access releases. And what's funny is that someone else has already commented with a suggestion on the Life by You YouTube video, so who knows, right? Anyways, Life by You is definitely not the 2023 answer to The Sims here, folks. This trait creator seems quite complex, but I can definitely tell that the Paradox Life by You team has simplified it. From what little I know about modding, programming, and coding, normally you would have to access the back-end coding in order to make these kind of changes and mods, and usually this comes in the form of a notepad where you have to manually add in the text to create these functions. If I understand modding correctly, and I'm totally open that I am not, you would have to add in lines of code to list out appealing objects, and even then, you would have to know that an appealing object tag existed in the first place and corresponded with objects that it makes sense to correspond to. The genius here is that Life by You is giving you a tool that cuts all of that research out so that any player could add in a custom trait. You just have to understand a little bit of technical programming in order to use it intuitively. And if you even understand if and then statements in Microsoft Excel, you can certainly see what kind of power the Paradox Life by You team is giving the players with an intuitive system. By the way, feel free to sound off in the comments below if my understanding of modding Sims games is completely off. I never actually had personal experience building mods, so I really don't know what kind of work actually goes into it. I'm just sharing my speculation on what I think the work involved would encompass. My next question would be if we would be able to export these traits to the workshop for downloading, but luckily, in the comment section on the Life by You's actual YouTube video, they did respond to someone saying that they would be able to share more on it. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what comes about that. Anyways, let's continue watching.
So that was it for the function tab. Let's move on to the needs tab just so I can show you. So in needs, you can associate your trait with a need. So you can have a primary need and a secondary need. I don't think I'm going to associate cozy with any needs. I think it's fine the way it is. Let me just show you what it looks like. So once you give a need, you can have it affect the natural rate of losing that need, as well as the satisfaction rate of earning that need back. You can also offset the urgency state, so basically at what point will you reach certain thresholds. Moving on to organization, here you can apply tags. So some of these tags are life stages, so you can say this is an adult trait. A good example of this was when Rod was talking about drunk and drinking. That behavior is tagged for adults and elders. Another thing you can do here is you can add tags for the sake of trying to organize. So for example, if you're saying this is an attitude or this is a personality trait, you can go ahead and add those tags here so that it's easier to reference later. As you see in the filters, you can search by tags.
I think that tags will be super important going forward. However, I also think that they can be a little confusing to work with at first. Up until this point, I don't think that we were able to tell the program to recognize cozy as a temporary state as opposed to a personality trait until we got to the organization tab demonstrated in the video. I would have liked to have seen Rocio go through a fully completed trait so that we can see how a fully programmed trait would actually look like in the back end. Like, I'm talking about a personality trait that would be fully fleshed out. Hopefully though, when the future blog that she mentions gets published, they will actually showcase what a fully programmed trait could look like and how complex it could actually be. And ideally, I would like to see a personality trait and also a temporary state trait like cozy that we are being shown here, just so that I can compare and contrast and see what kind of differences are there, and also how complex you can make each of those traits.
By tags. Let's remove all of that and just keep it simple for cozy. Moving on, we have inherited traits, suppressed traits, supporting and reciprocal traits, as well as opposing traits. So I will definitely leave this one for Lauren to explain later, but for the sake of example, let's go ahead and add awkward as an opposing trait to cozy, because you're probably not feeling too cozy if you're awkward. And lastly, the references tab. This basically tells you where might this trait be referenced elsewhere in the game. Right now, it's not applicable to cozy. I just added it. I'll leave it for now. And as promised, let me show you an example of a trait that's already been implemented. Here I've gone ahead and filtered by conditional traits, and I've picked hungover as our example today. So I've gone to the function tab because I think this is where it gets interesting. If I want to edit this, I have to overwrite it because it is one of the built-in traits. But now that we're in function, you can change the emotion that it elicits. Here it's like a little sweaty, uncomfortable emoji, as well as the duration. So here you can see that it's 720 minutes of being hungover. And when you're hungover, your bed and your chairs are very appealing, but fitness is not. So you can kind of see where all of these tags come into play. Now let's look at the script. Here on add, you can see that you get a notification to let you know that your human has become hungover. And from there, it goes ahead and updates their emotion, basically telling you as soon as you become hungover, you're going to feel bad. And when you make changes in the editor, you can use the arrows to go backward or forward, or use the revert. And of course, you can add more commands. This is already built in, but let's say instead of this human emotion, I would rather, add a human interaction. In this case, I would just place it onto the board, essentially, and just change the flow. So move it from human emotion update to the human interaction you want to add. And let's close that and keep looking. Under display, it has the basics here. It's a temporary condition, so it doesn't have a lot here. Under needs, you can see that it affects both the rest and the fun needs. Under organization, you can see that it's restricted to adults, elders. It's a conditional trait. It will be in early access, and it's a human trait.
Maybe I just missed it, so sound off below if you caught it, and I just didn't. But I would have liked to have seen the trigger for the hungover trait explained. I didn't see that it was necessarily triggered by anything, but I would imagine that the hungover condition trait would be triggered by being drunk within the last 8 hours or consuming X amount of alcohol. Anyways, feel free to comment with the timestamp if I just happen to have missed that part. Anyways, I like that Rocio goes in to show us the scripts. If I'm going to be totally honest, I think that it actually looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is. Although I do have a background in tech, I think that it is fairly straightforward to add in scripts or behaviors associated with a trait using their in-game tools. It's just that we're all going to have to get used to the naming scheme when it comes for searching for tags to actually add in. I more so want to know exactly what a tag is in the Life by You context, because a tag seems like it can refer to many things, and I can see it referring to functions as well as corresponding to certain categories. If I happen to have just missed this, again, feel free to drop a comment below with your explanation.
And that's it for our example of hungover. Let's close it out with a quick skill example like I mentioned earlier. Let me just look through some of the existing skills for some inspiration. We have a bunch of really fun ones. So let's see if I can add or, expand upon some of them. I like all the writing ones. Maybe I'll add another writing one. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do, actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and click the little green plus sign, and now I have a new skill. Under display name, I'm just gonna type in writing parentheses what it is, like the other ones. Speaking of the other ones, let's go ahead and use those descriptions as a basis for this one. A quick copy paste. And replacing mystery with fan fiction. And let's be a little bit more realistic with the description, unfortunately. And for now, I'm just going to leave the rest of this at the default. Now I can plug this skill into other things, such as objects and events. All that's left to do is make sure that it's named properly, and that's how you add a skill. Thank you all for joining us. We can't wait to show you some more of the editors in coming videos, so stay tuned and hope you have a good weekend.
I would also like to see more on skills. I feel like you would have to assign behaviors to objects and then design how each skill behaves as you continue to develop it. For example, just writing in the description that you can sell more books for having a high writing skill without adding in some sort of a conditional behavior to an object seems a little off to me, since text descriptions don't trigger in-game functions. Maybe I'm just understanding it wrong or overthinking it, but that was one observation that I wanted to share with you guys in hopes that maybe someone else can shed some light on it. I have to say that overall, I am very impressed with this video, and I'm very glad that the Paradox Life by You team has decided to play into their strengths, and that is to showcase what makes Life by You unique from EA's Sims or from Paralives. It isn't the life simulation game concept, it is the modability that nearly anyone can do and the seemingly endless customization options that is placed at the player's fingertips, reminiscent of Bethesda and even Second Life, dare I say. Do I think that the interface will be hard to learn? Actually, no. I think that the Life by You team did a wonderful job at building a UI that will be easy to use by players of all mod skill sets. Sure, it would take some time to get over the learning curve, but I honestly think that when it comes to customizing your game or modding at any kind of level, that there's always going to be a learning curve of some sort no matter what. And what I really see here from Rod Humble, Paradox, and the Life by You team is that they've really lowered that bar of entry to make it seem easy for nearly anybody from any skill set to really go in and customize their game as they see fit. That's what I see anyways. And now, I want to know what you have to think about the traits, skills, and Life by You humans. Do you think that the tools will actually be easy to use? Or what questions do you have from watching the trait and skill editors? If you have never modded anything before, would these tools actually encourage you to try? Or do you think that there is too much focus on the tools given in the game? Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And until next time, I just want to thank you again for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, then feel free to like and subscribe for more. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.